I'm sorry if my post here ends up being really disjointed X, but over the past couple of weeks, I've been having some horrible dreams. I talked to my mother, and, well, turns out that what I've been seeing when I close my eyes at night, they aren't actually dreams, they're memories. I get these horrible images flashing in my mind, and every day I remember more and more details, and I'm frightened to death, wondering what I am going to remember next. The thing is, I don't know how I could possibly forget what I saw. I think I saw my friends die. I think I saw two of my closest friends die right in front of me in 5th grade when I was around 10 years old. I am going to green text what I remember as best as I can, and hopefully I can just make some sense of it. So, I was around 10 years old when this happened, around 10 years or so ago. The area that I live in is not super populated, but it's not completely isolated either. There are lots of forests and woods around and stuff, which for a child like I was at the time, it was pretty exciting. So it was late at night, probably around 9 p.m. I was in deep shit, and I knew I was, because I had missed my curfew. I had to be home at 9 o'clock on the dot, otherwise my mom would not let me hang out with my friends anymore. She was a bit of an old school parent and did not mind me wandering around all day, but this was a hard rule. I was with two of my friends, who I will refer to as Tommy and Bobby, not their real names. We were talking about something really stupid. I think we were talking about Bakugan or some shit, which I loved as a little kid. I think we were talking about how we wished it would come back and which ones we had and shit. All of a sudden, the realization hit me, and I shit my pants and told the both of them that I had to go right now. That I would probably be grounded and not be able to leave my house for like a month. I started sprinting off, but Tommy shouted after me, telling me I would never make it. He told me that he knew a shortcut for the woods, and that if I followed him, I might make it in time to be okay. I told him to hurry the hell up, and we started running. This section of the woods, I had never been through them before. We had never walked through this area. The second we hit the woods, I felt wrong. I got hit by this sensation. It's so hard to describe. It's like a primal thing, like your body just knows what's up. I had this static sound that was building up, but I could feel it in my head almost, like right in my brain. Like some kind of TV static, but it started out really low and got progressively louder the further we went into the forest. It started out in my head, but later on, I remember feeling the static in my legs, hearing it in my legs almost, if that makes sense. I could feel my hands and my feet tingling, and it was my entire body near the end, just static all over my body. I remember asking both Tommy and Bobby what the hell was going on, and Tommy shouted at me to keep on running. He sounded really scared. At one point, I tripped over, because my shoelaces were only tucked into my sneakers, and when I hit the ground, I felt this horrible feeling. My vision just seemed to pulse with this intense bright light, and I had this ringing sound echoing in my right ear. It's like when you play Call of Duty and you get hit with a flashbang. That's the best way I can put it. I shouted for Tommy and Bobby to wait up, but they never did. They didn't even call back to me. When I looked up, I could see them, but they were both just running parallel with each other and were becoming more and more distant. Just two shadows, growing fainter. I remember that I felt some rumbling, and I almost fell back over as I was getting to my feet. I have no idea what the rumbling was. I couldn't really hear anything because of the static and the ringing that were combining to make me deaf. But I saw that Tommy and Bobby, where they were running towards, there was this red light. It was glowing, pulsing even, and I got a horrible feeling looking right at it. I just started running, but I was unsteady on my feet. I was struggling to keep my balance and my vision. It was starting to blur. I was seeing double. When I looked down at my hands, I could see that they were growing further away and splitting into two. It was like I had become permanently cross-eyed. I was shouting the whole time that I ran, but I could barely hear my own shouts. I know I caught up to both of them at one point, but from here on is where my memory becomes exceptionally distorted. I recall running alongside the two of them, and I could hear Bobby crying. He just kept saying that he wanted to go home, but Tommy was getting really furious with him. We stopped running, and he was shouting at Bobby and telling him to just leave if he wanted to. I asked the two of them if they were struggling to see too. Tommy just asked me what the hell was I talking about. I asked about the red glow, and he told me I was crazy. We got closer and closer to it, and my vision got worse. The next thing I remember is I had both of my palms pressed flat to a tree. There was blood all over the tree, and both of my hands, it was just dripping down the bark. I was so scared, I thought it was my blood. It was leading down the trunk of the tree, and somewhere behind me, going through the grass. I stumbled over like a drunk. Just a few steps at a time was all that I could manage. There were a pile of clothes and a pair of shoes dumped just behind a bush. They were all caked in blood. It looked like the outfit that Tommy was wearing. His white Nike sneakers. There was blood all around the sides of them. They were stained brown and red. I just ran away. It seemed like no matter how far or how quickly I ran, I could not get out of the forest. I tried to run to the left to get back near the road, but I ended up back at that tree. It seemed like there was even more blood when I ended up back there. I think I caught a glimpse of something in the corner of my eye. It was too dark to make out, just a vague, shadowy mass. I ran towards it, thinking it was one of my friends. I don't know how long passed between that and the next flash that I have. At one point, I was looking down at the floor, and I was breathing heavily. My legs were shaking inwards, and I could barely stand. I'd begun hitting myself, just striking my thigh as hard as I could, again and again, which made me come to, I suppose. My heart was in my stomach, and I caught sight of Bobby. He was propped up against a tree, a massive spatter of red just behind him. He was just ripped open. He was spilling out on the floor. His insides. Oh God, it was so horrible. They were just in a pile in front of him, and I just ran away as quickly as I could. It was like someone had just cut him open, reached into him, and just pulled until it was all out on the floor. The next flash that I get, I was sat down on the ground. I think my legs had just given way. There was someone in front of me, maybe 30 feet away from me. Whoever it was, they were tall, taller than Tommy, taller than Bobby. I could not make out much. Whoever it was, I think they were wearing some kind of a mask, at least. That's what it looked like. What I could see, it was bulging out from their face. It wasn't flush to their face. I think it was a clown mask. It looked just so ridiculous and exaggerated. This person, I still had double vision. It was hard to make out where they were actually standing and what they were doing. I thought they were going behind a tree at first, but I think they walked towards me. I remember they moved the mask, what I think was a mask, and then nothing. The face was just nothing. And I'm not sure if it was just my vision, but they almost seemed to change or morph. I'm not exactly sure how. The head, the arms, they changed. Changed in size, maybe. I don't remember anything else from that point. And then I was flat on my back on the forest floor. I must have drifted off to sleep for a while because my eyes shot open and I was panting. I was bathed in red light. I don't know where it was coming from. Originally, it was somewhere deep in the forest, but now it seemed like it was coming from somewhere above me, and it was still pulsing. I heard screaming at one point. It sounded like Tommy. My throat was burning by this point, and my legs felt like they were on fire. Most of the noise around me, Even Tommy's scream, it was being drowned out entirely by the static sounds inside my body. It was so hard to hear. Everything felt fuzzy and like I was just not physical anymore. It felt like I wasn't even real, like nothing was real anymore. I found Tommy eventually. I wish I didn't. I saw him laying down on the ground. He had his arms thrown around a tree, like he was hugging the tree, and he was facing in that direction. He must have been clinging on for dear life. I started calling out his name as I got closer, and when he didn't respond, I just started sobbing. I kneeled down just beside him, and I hugged him from behind. I told him I was glad I found him, that something horrible had happened to Bobby. But I smelled this horrible smell. My hands were shaking, but I used my hands to try and move Tommy so I could see his face. Maybe he was just passed out, right? But his eyes weren't there anymore. They were just empty, bloody sockets, and I screamed louder than I ever had before. I dropped him and I closed my eyes. I put my hands over my eyes and I just squeezed tight. I stood up and I started just squeezing that tree, clinging onto it, thinking it might bring me back to reality. I squeezed it until I felt my arms tighten and like I was going to burst a blood vessel. The static was so loud, but after some time of gripping that tree, I have another flash of memory. The static, all of a sudden, just came to a stop, and it made me take notice. I heard some leaves crunch behind me, and I heard the sounds of breathing. And I turned around, and whatever that thing was, it was there. It was there again. And its nothing face. It had eyes now. Bright blue eyes, human eyes, staring at me. It tilted its head as it walked towards me, and it started making noises. It sounded like when you wind up a toy car, just over and over again. I closed my eyes tight and I waited for it to be all over. That is the last thing that I remember. That is the very last flash I got. The rest I only really know because my mom told me. She was furious with me at first, but eventually she got worried. She called the police, and with their help, and the help of some of the neighbors that we were close to, they combed all of the nearby forest. I had told her roughly where I was going to explore. She said that they did not find me until nearly sunup. They found me by a tree, in the same forest I tried to use as a shortcut with Tommy and Bobby. I was apparently walking in circles around this same tree, over and over again, and would not respond when she called for me. I was apparently dehydrated and on the verge of collapsing. I don't remember my mom ever seeing me in that forest. My memory has been coming back to me in flashes, but only from that night. I must be missing a week, maybe 2 weeks of memories, maybe even more. It's like that entire point in my life is so blurry. She said I was mumbling something about a red light when they found me. My mom was shaking me back and forth, asking if I was okay, asking me what happened. According to my mother, the only thing I ever said to her was, "Tommy can't see anymore," and I pointed in the direction of the forest. My mom was really reluctant to tell me all of this. She told me that it took me a long time to be normal again, and I asked her what she meant. I apparently had horrible night terrors for close to a year, but I don't remember any of that personally. I would apparently start screaming in the middle of the night about the red light, and I would just start hitting myself and running around the house and crashing into things. Apparently one night it was so bad, I ran full force into the dry wall and left an imprint with my shoulder. When I would run around, when she would grab me and try and calm me down, I would just keep muttering about Tommy and Bobby. She took me to therapy, she said, but it never worked. In the daytime, I would apparently clam up. It was like in the daytime, I had no memory of it. Or at least I was better at keeping it inside. It was only at nighttime that it would all come flooding out. I asked her if what I saw was real, and she hesitated for a little while. All she told me was that Tommy and Bobby were murdered. She got really serious for a moment and told me that I needed to see a therapist again, that she's worried about me. I agreed, but only so she would drop it. Does anyone have an explanation that's even in the same realm as plausible? I just don't know how I could forget something like that. How could I forget that my two closest friends had died? I never remembered until now just how much I missed them. It's like I've just been hit by a ton of bricks all at once. This is easily the most surreal thing that's ever happened to me. I was in northern Illinois when this happened. I've been spending some time restoring my 1972 Dodge Demon because I apparently have a thing for masochism. I need to replace the little sockets for the instrument panel lights, but I cannot find the replacements anywhere. A mechanic tells me about a place about an hour south of us in Oregon called Mopar City. It's like a Chrysler elephant graveyard. Just this big field way out in the middle of nowhere, littered with the corpses of all Chryslers, Dodges, and Plymouths. It sounds pretty cool, so I asked my friend if he wants to tag along. We're not using any GPS. We're just going to look it up on Google Maps before we leave. We drive down into rural Illinois. There is just nothing for miles and miles around. It's late summer, so the crops are pretty tall. Otherwise, it looks like the ending from Portal 2. We are driving through towns that look like they have populations of about 50 people in total. We get off the interstate, we get to Oregon, we take the right turns. At one point, we are coming up to a hill and just see the towers from a nuclear power plant coming up over the horizon. Some hills have eyes shit. We get to the road the address is listed on. We turn onto the road. We get to where the Google Maps marker was. There is nothing around. There is not even a farmhouse in sight. Not even a gravel road. There is just corn on both sides. And there is a guy standing on the side of the road, eating an apple. What the hell? What is he even doing out here? There is nothing here at all. I pull over and ask him if we are in the right place. This dude looks like Shaky Graves. He just keeps on chewing his apple. He shakes his head and points us back in the direction that we came from. He does not say anything. He just keeps on chewing his apple. Then he gestures to my friend to come to him. My friend gets out, I guess thinking he's gonna write down or draw us a map or something. He hands my friend the half-eaten apple. Then he turns around and walks back into the corn. What the hell? It turns out the Google Maps marker was wrong. Not sure if it still is, and we were about a mile west of where we should have been. To this day, the only explanation we could come up with is that he was waiting for a ride and decided that right then and there that he needed to go and take a piss and wanted my friend to hold his apple until he was done. I have no idea, but he didn't come back. When I lived in Chicago, I had a neighbor that was a city cop. He related this tale to me. I have no idea whether it is true. Be a cop. I am working in Chicago. I am patrolling in Humboldt Park. I hear this call come over the radio. Some officers need assistance in an alley that's not too far away from the boulevard. I respond to the call. I pull up into the alley. It is just utter carnage. There are at least 15 people dead on the ground. The officers who called me for assistance, they are nowhere around, nowhere to be seen at all. They are not in this alley. Their cars were still there, but just no trace of them at all. The calls over the radio about it become sporadic and cryptic. More backup finally arrives to help me. It becomes clear that all of the dead jumped from the roofs above the alley. The investigation was pretty quiet. The story never made the news. The cops who called for backup were later found back at the precinct station, but they had no clue how they got there, and I mean, Their cruisers were still at the scene, so there's no way they could have just walked back there that quickly without someone spotting them on the way. Superiors encourage everyone to stay quiet about the incident. He said that things like this have been happening for a long time in that location, but that their frequency had increased in recent years. So, this happened to me around 3 months ago. I am suddenly woken up in the middle of the night and I can't tell why. I feel anxious, but I don't really think much of it because I have anxiety disorder. I'm at the second floor window, by the way, and I hear 3 quick taps followed by 2 slow ones on that same very window. My blood runs cold, my heart stops. I have a full-blown flight response. I run downstairs, grab a kitchen knife, and rush outside the front door. I'm thinking this is it. I'm gonna have to fight someone, but nothing is there. What the hell? I search the sides of the house and the backyard. There is nothing. There is no tracks, no sign of a person, no sign of a crackhead hanging around. Nothing. This is by far the most unexplainable thing that's ever happened to me. I live in a sort of shitty area of town. I can't remember the last time I saw a wild animal, or even a bird for that matter. The closest nature is a stretch of forest, maybe a couple of acres in total, and that's about a couple of miles down the road. My room has 2 windows that face the street. I work night shifts most days, so both windows are blocked with a thick, heavy blanket. There is no way to see inside or outside without moving the blanket. Also of note, the guy that lives across the street from me has a set of infrared cameras that can see most of the front of my house. I asked him the next day to check the footage of what he could see of my house. The camera showed nothing, until around 3:34 a.m., when for about 30 seconds, the camera refocused and the whole shot just goes blurry, then focused back in, showing the front of my house and nothing there. I know, how convenient. Quite frankly, I wish this was made up. Initially, I just brushed it off as a strange coincidence. The guy's a woodworker. Maybe a piece of sawdust flew into the camera right as a bird landed, you know? It left my mind almost entirely until just about a week and a half ago. Something else happened. I am suddenly woken up in the middle of the night once again. It's on one of my days off, so I am super pissed. I'm just trying to enjoy my sleep. I think that maybe one of my roommates made a noise, dropped something, etc. But the whole house is silent. This is strange, since me and all 3 of my housemates have TVs running almost 24/7. I am really thirsty, so I go downstairs to get some water from the fridge. It's a 2-bed, 2-bath house. One of them sleeps on the couch downstairs because no homo. He's not there. That's not super unusual, as he's a bit of a druggie. We will call him D. He's important later on. My anxiety is kicking in, but again, anxiety disorder. I hear scratching noises from the sliding glass door. Must be our dog. I finish business downstairs. I go back upstairs. I poke my head into each housemate's room. They are both sound asleep. But wait, the dog is asleep with one of them. My heart sinks. I'm trying to rationalize it in my head. It must be D, smoking outside. It must have been a leaf, etc., etc. I hear the sound of the garage door slam shut. L smokes in the garage. It's not terribly unusual, save for the slamming this late at night. I am heading back downstairs to check on him. He comes bolting up the stairs, looking like he had just seen a ghost. He grabs me on the way up. He almost yanks my goddamn arm off. What the hell is going on, D? He tells me to shut up, to not make a sound. I have never seen him like this before. He is your typical chill, hippie stoner. We're in my room now, sitting on my couch. The stairwell is right outside the door. The house is completely silent again, save for our breathing. I can hear this noise, and it's loud as fuck. It sounds like knives going up a rusty garbage can. I look over at D. His eyes are closed. He is sweating and visibly shaking. I am freaking out now too. I can hear the sound of heavy, labored breathing coming from downstairs. I am shitting my pants now. I stand up as quietly as possible. I grab my dad's old M9 Frobus Frey I keep on my nightstand and a shitty little flashlight out of the drawer. I am gonna fuck this creature up. D is still sitting on the couch, like he's frozen in place. I peek my head around the corner, looking down the stairwell. It's just completely pitch black, and I am terrified. I stand there for a moment, then gather up my courage and begin walking downstairs as silently as possible. I turn the light on halfway down. I hear shuffling. One of our dining room table chairs gets knocked over. I nearly jump down the rest of the stairs. I round the corner into the dining room. I see the tail end of a tall, humanoid creature rush outside the back door. I rush over to the back door and look outside. I see nothing there. The backyard is surrounded on all sides by 3 neighbors. They must have jumped over the fence. Well, shit. No 5 seconds of fame for me. I call the cops and explain the situation. 4 squad cars pull up, and I explain what happened and what I saw. D gives his story. D was on his way inside when the back door opened. He saw the same thing. Humanoid creature, about 6.5 feet tall, completely black. D says its eyes were glowing white when it saw him, but I just thought he was high as fuck. The cops did not find anyone or anything in their search. Nothing has happened since then. It still gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. A robber would not act like that, right? A human would have either turned tail or came up with him to try and attack him, right? Either way, I'm glad it's over for now. We have since bought a couple of handguns in an effort to be a little bit more prepared. Alright, I feel a little bit silly even writing this down, but here we go. My supernatural encounter. I was around 17 years old when this happened. My dad loves to hunt, and I always go with him. We've had a real bad string of not getting drawn. After another year of not getting drawn, my dad just buys some expensive tickets to hunt on the local res. It's kind of a splurge, but it was on my dad and he could afford it. The land is super beautiful. We keep spotting deer all over, no elk. We only got tags for elk. I'm okay with it. My favorite part of hunting is just walking around and spending time with my dad. He was a surgeon when I was a kid, so I spent a lot of my childhood not really knowing who he was. He really only just came home to eat or sleep. Anyway, we walk around all week and it runs me ragged. We get to a nice meadow one day, and my dad says he's gonna take a nap in the shade. He tells me to keep an eye on the meadow. Elk wander into them all of the time. I am just chilling out in the beauty when I see some movement. I peek at it through my scope, just another herd of deer. I take my finger off of the trigger. I know, I shouldn't have even put it on the trigger before I knew what I was looking at. I'm much safer now. And I just watch them through the scope. A few minutes later, the deer scatter, and they just bolt away. Absolutely terrified. Weird, but neat to see. Maybe another predator is nearby and that's why they got scared. I'm not too worried. My gun is honestly stupidly big, even for elk. I'm mostly just curious. I wait to see more movement. Eventually, I see something move across the clearing. I look through the scope to see what it is. It's just another deer. It looks a little bit funny, but not mutated kind of funny. Just a little gangly. It moves a little funny too. Deer are real graceful. This thing just kind of bumbles. I honestly just assumed it was really young or something and hadn't learned how to walk properly. It walks a little bit more into the clearing, and then it stops. It looks directly at me through the scope. That's already a little bit weird. I'm a good 400 meters out and in the shade. It should not be able to see me, and it certainly should not be able to catch any lens glare. The deer rears back on its hind legs, and the front legs just twist. I've seen deer on their hind legs before, but they cannot put their front legs at their sides like humans can, but this thing fucking does. The posture still is not human, cause deer do not have a center of weight like that, but it can put its hooves at its side, and it just stands there, and it looks at me. Then it bolts across the clearing. I just want to be very clear. It bolts on 2 legs. And even though it looks completely ridiculous, it's moving way faster than a normal deer would. If I had to eyeball it, I'd say this freak hit 30-ish. I got a good long period to look at this thing, 20 seconds at least. It had that super forward-leaning sprint of sprinters, but it's a deer on 2 legs. It's not moving towards me, it's just headed across the clearing. I don't know why I didn't shoot it. I think part of my brain was still worried about the elk versus deer tag thing. It sounds really dumb saying it out loud, but I wasn't really worried. I was just baffled and kind of grossed out. After it's gone, I tell my dad all about it. He thinks I must have hallucinated it. I had only slept about 4 hours a night for the last 3 nights. I was a major insomniac in high school, and sleeping anywhere but my house made it a lot worse. We walk out to the meadow to look for footprints. All we find is the pair of prints from where I saw it on 4 legs. Nothing from the 2-legged stage. The only weird detail is that the areas that it went through had a really weird smell that both me and my dad picked up on right away, like old pennies and bleach. It was weird. I'm an atheist, so I generally do not put a lot of stock in the supernatural, but I gotta admit, that night shook me up. Weird shit went down. I don't know what it was.